So I want some function that takes in an object that looks like this. It's going to have the key, which is the name in the database, like the field, and then the array of strings. And I want it to return this JSX. That's just the React component, right? So let's make a React component that does this. So let's go ahead and inside of our JavaScript components, let's make a new file and let's call this like air.js. Import React. Const air. It's going to take some props. Turn div. Let's do this. Let's do our let's just inside of here. Let's actually just do like an H1 now, like a paragraph, like errors. And then for now, I'm just going to do this JSON.stringify. And I'm going to expect this to get like props.err. I can export default error. So the JSON stringify is that nice method where we can just pass in an object. It'll just turn it into a string, and then we can render a string. Because we can't just throw an object in there. React will complain, but we can convert that object to a string, and then we can render a string. Okay. So notice and then another thing here, I'm going to want to have like this component in the form, but it's my app.js that's maintaining this error state. Errors and set errors, and I've already tested that out. Like I know that's working. And maybe I'm calling these errors and that error. I think that's fine for now. I probably want to just pick one. Should I call them errors or error? Or maybe I call this like error object. But let's keep them the same because this will kind of show which is the name and which is the prop name and which is the value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give my item form an error prop. And then I'm going to set that equal to the errors state. So my app component is keeping track of that errors state. Well, I can just pass that down to my item form. So then in my item form, I can do something like this. Props.error. Remember, I set that to null. So if it's anything other than null, then I want to go ahead and render my error component. Now notice there's two errors. Make sure you grab the one that's from your components file and import that. So I import error from error. And this one's an error prop. Where am I getting that? That's going to be props.error. So from my app, I take that state, give it to my form, and then my form is going to give it to my error component, and that's going to stringify it. So I could refresh that. There we go. I'm at least, now I'm showing that state in my form. And then if I like add something, it changes to category, because that's not a valid option. So if I do React, now my name can't be blank. There we go. So that's close. That's almost there. But this is just some JSON. Maybe I want to make the last thing I wanted to do. So I have the JSON going to that component. But the last thing I want to do, if I look at my README, say if I'm trying to be exact, I want the JSX. I don't want it to be the stringified JSON. I want it to be this. Just gonna like throw this in here for reference, just so I don't have to go back. Okay. So I want it to match exactly when I go inspect the element, like it looks like this. So let's try doing that. So I don't need this errors anymore. I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm going to I'm going to just create a function like render error. So I can do this elsewhere. There's a couple different ways to map over or to go through each of your objects or each of your key value pairs. You can do like it's called like a for in loop. I can do a for, like X in the object props dot error. And I'm going to just destructure my error right here. So I don't have to say props dot. I could do that. That would go through each key value pair in that. But what I think what would be better, there's also, I think this one's a little better for what we're trying to do. I can use my object. So this is an object. It's called object, but I can use, this is a object that we can perform like functions on objects. And then I can do this entries. So let's just maybe look at this in Node. So let's say I have some object, X, it has a name, Mike, and then number 23, whatever. There's my object. So I can do, here's my object, object. So I can do something like this. I can call it dot entries on this. And then I can pass it a object, which I named X. And trees. I feel like I'm spelling that wrong. See how that's returning an array of arrays. With the first thing being the key, the second thing being the value. So I could then call like a map on that. And X is really just going to be, oh, sorry, I can't use X again. Let's do, this is really the inner array. So So I could say, hey, return for this, return inner array at 0. See, and that would return the keys. I did return inner array at 1. That's going to return the values. Questions on that? So the objects.entry, I pass it the object, and it's just going to take all those key value pairs and just create these inner arrays. Key value, key value. So let's do this. Objects. So in my code, I'm going to do object.entries error. That's going to split it up into that what am I trying to think? Into those inner arrays. But this is an array of an array. So then I can call map on this, just like I did here. And then this is going to be like the kind of want to, like, I could do this. I don't know, that's kind of confusing syntax. So I'm just going to call this the inner array, or the key value pair. I'm just trying to make, does that make sense to y'all what that is? Key value pair array. So I could, break this up and could say, if just to make this more readable, maybe, so const, like the field or the attribute, that's going to be the first thing. And then I could say, like, oh man, the errors, because remember the value, the key is just like the field of the form input that was missing. So I could call this field or like attribute. And then the value is going to be the array of strings. That's going to be the second thing. Now I can return some JSX. So I'll just, because that's the 8. So now I can do, let's just, for now, let's return the paragraph. Let's just do the ATTR, just so I can see what we're doing. And just for like demo purposes, I will also leave the JSON.stringify in here. And actually, I need to return this, because this is actually the object.entries, and then I'm calling the map on that. So that map's going to, that's what I'm going to return, is this map function. All right. So I should at least be seeing like the attributes now in this. So let's refresh this. Hit add. So see, I'm getting name and category. I'm pulling these keys off of that. So I've gotten that far so far. Name and category off of this object. Now I want to loop over the values, which is an array of strings, which is this second value of that array, which I'm calling errors. So now here I can do a errors.map, go through each error, and let's return. Let's do an li for now. The error. What doesn't it like here? Now I'm going to slack this out. So here I can render, well, I'm rendering this all in a paragraph tag. So what I really want this to look like is I want this attribute to be in a paragraph. And let's just wrap this in a div for now. Then I want all of these list items to be in the UL. So we're getting close to where we need to be. So I have my div, I'm returning a div. Within there, there's a paragraph, and then there's my UL, which is my unordered list. And then I go in it within the UL, I do the errors.map error. Let's refresh. Click add. And there we go. If I inspect the element and kind of look at the HTML, this is not exactly matching the way I wanted to have it look. Because really I have this p tag and this UL within, like they're in this inner div. Do you see how that's looking? And how I wanted it, because here's how it is. Right now, how I have it, I have like a div. I'm wrapping these inside of a div. And for whatever reason, I'm saying I can't do that. So that this is how it is now, but I don't want these divs. So essentially, I don't want this div right here. But now that breaks my JSX. Has anyone run into this issue where like you want to kind of have your JSX looks like this, but then it's saying, hey, you can't do this? Because what the error is, and I'll come show it like in a more visible way, I can't have like two sibling HTML elements. Like I need one parent element. So this is like invalid because these divs are considered siblings. And yeah, if I look at the error, JS expressions must have one parent element. So if I want it to look like this, there is a workaround. I can get it to look like this. I can use what's called a fragment. I can get around this by using a blank HTML element like that. So if you ever run into that situation where, because in this case, I do want it to look like this. I don't want the div, but I kind of need to do this way. I can use this blank open-ended HTML tag. And then if I refresh this, regenerate that error and go inspect the element, UL, LI, it's now matching how I wanted it. And you know, this could make depending on how you do like your styling, nesting something inside of a div that's not supposed to be nested inside of a div could mess up your styling. So let me Slack this out. So yeah, we're not like for the hackathon and for homework, we don't really expect you to do error handling. But because it can be a little difficult. You know, you might even say like, well, maybe I want this name message to be right here and this category messages to be underneath category. I mean, we could make that work, but that's a lot more work. Like this was already quite a bit of work. But it's pretty effective. Where now it's like at least we're getting like really clear messages about why we can't do this. And then when it does work, they go away. Questions on that? Now, I actually like during break, like this was something I knew like about the for in loop, but I kind of forgotten about this method. So this was like something during break, like I just Googled. It's not like I remembered how to do this. I just kind of Googled it. I looked at like what object.entries does, saw how it returns, saw an example. Let's see if I even have like a stack overflow. Yeah, let me show you this. Yeah, so I just Googled it. Found this Stack Overflow, found like, you know, some options to do it and, you know, kind of picked one. So I saw this one. I was like, I kind of liked how this one looks. And it actually had this nicer syntax that I was using, but I didn't want to go over that because I thought that would be confusing as well. But once again, internet is your friend. So, any questions here?
I'm not seeing that on Slack. Did you say you Slacked it out?
Oh, sorry, I selected the wrong channel. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I almost just selected out again to the wrong channel. Okay. Thanks for telling me. Okay, there you go. Also go through and push all this code up to GitHub. So this would be a good time for a commit, go through my changes. Maybe I don't want to like throw this README. So I don't want to change the README. I actually just want the README to be blank, or I could undo it. Yeah, sure, that works. Go back to my app. Look at my errors. That looks good. The item form. That looks good. Add it, commit it. Oh crap, I hope that does that do. Accidentally hit the wrong button. Okay, so that should be up on GitHub. So that's create. We really did a lot with our form there with error handling. Let's do update now. So we're kind of doing some challenging stuff today. But luckily for us, we've actually set up our form. Like we're kind of set up for update, kind of like we have some good stuff going on. So let's start working on update. Now I say for this, I'm going to let you pick how we should do this. Like, and what I mean by that is, how do you want to do the UI? I think you were maybe asking, like, we have an edit button and then it like toggles the form here. Is that how you want to do it?
Yeah, that would be sweet.
Yeah. So let's throw in an edit button, and we actually we've kind of already created this form so we can reuse it. So let's get that working, and then we'll take a break. So what I want to have is on my item component is an edit button that toggles a form. So let's go to my item.js file, add a button, it just says edit me. Sure, edit item ID. Let's just go ahead and const. Just in here to have this edit item. I'm going to call this edit, edit item, whatever. And then for now, we'll just kind of decide what to do. For now, I'll just log the ID. Let's see if we're grabbing that. Just doing some small changes. Get items, edit item console. I'm logging the ID. So that button's hooked up. So a couple options. We could do an Axios call. Well, actually, I'm going to wait off on the Axios. Let's just get our form to toggle. So we could we want to throw the form in here, right? This is where we want to toggle it. So what do you think we need? Kind of two things.
State.
Yes,
Down as
state.
props.
State is one of them. And then what was the other thing someone said?
You have to pass it down as props.
Pass down what is props?
The like your edit on your main app. Didn't we do
Yeah,
that?
we
Delete
will.
item?
Yeah, we'll do that. We will need to have like an update function in our app and then pass
Yeah.
it down. For now,
Okay.
let's just try to toggle the form. What I was saying is we need to import the form here. So we're going to grab our state. Let's do show form. Let's just call it show form and set show form equal to use state. And by default, let's have this be false. I don't think we should really show the edit form by default. It's like more of a UX decision than like a code decision. So then I can do show form. So if that is true, then let's show our item form. Refresh this, just doing like small steps. Grab our items, edit me. Oh, yeah, well, that's not going to work. Because my edit form, I logged the ID, but I'm actually need to like, say, hey, show the form. So I set show form to true. And really, it's kind of dumb. I should probably just do this right here. Because this on click really just is going to toggle the form. And for now, we'll just have this be not show form. Let's do our negation. So show form's a Boolean. We'll just negate it. So I probably don't need this function. Is that showing this? Okay. So sorry, I changed that to be just the on click set show form to not show form. So now get items, edit me. So there's my form. It doesn't have the values. But I do have, name, description, ID, likes, this delete item. So I could pass these down. So let's do name equals name. Description. I think these are the only two we have right now in our form anyway. So description equals description. Sorry, I don't need the comma there. I want the ID for sure. ID equals ID. Yeah. Probably should grab the category. Category equals category. Now that's actually one I haven't pulled from props. So this would be undefined because I haven't actually defined it. So I need to define category up here as well. And if you have a lot of props, like my autosave will like format it so they're on like new lines. So this becomes a little easier to read. So I have this item form, I have an ID prop, category prop, name prop, description prop. So I can refresh that. Get items, and then edit me. There we go. Now we have our values. Maybe another thing that might look better is just I could potentially just not show this one and just show the form. Not show both of them. Need something. Actually, that's fine. Let's leave this for now. But I could change my UI so it either just shows the form or it shows this section. Because right now it's showing both. That might not be the best UI. But let's take a break. I think this is a good spot. That's toggling. We'll maybe clean up the UI a little, but we've at least we're toggling our form now, and we have the values pre-populated. So I'm going to add this to GitHub and then I'll push that. But let's just come back at, let's call it 11:40. Are there any questions or anything? Nope. Cool.
I have a question. It's just not on that specific.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm trying to get my books.js so I'm trying to like plug it in to the apps.js to show on the local host. And I'm having problems getting that going.